engineer out of Europe, in which every system, very much like the human body, every system sort of nested with one another, and all those synergies were sort of sought out and exploited. So the rainwater that falls on the building is used to flush toilets. The photovoltaic panels, if they aren't used for sort of internal uses by the building occupants, is used to charge electric vehicles. The waste that goes out is turned into organic matter, and so on and so on and so on, all in a very small building. And this is a 4-acre project. And it absolutely rocked the world. The way somebody suggested this morning, Seaside rethought for the planet what we could do in terms of urbanism. Buildings like this and projects like this are beginning to think how you can really get this high performance in a platform and in a place that delights people. And so in the end, the organization that sponsored this was a not-for-profit called Bioregional. And they came up with these 10 principles. And I submit to you that this wouldn't be a bad set of 10 principles to take forward if you do a plan. And again, I'm going to start at the bottom, health and happiness being the one at the bottom that I think you should absolutely start with. I've found in the years of trying to promote sustainability and conservation and so on that Americans don't respond, and me first of all, to scolding, to being finger wagged at, to being told what to do, all those kinds of things. But I do respond every time to more fun and more happiness. And so I think that is a driver. And so the new urbanists, I think, have been really good at offering that as a choice. And so the rest of it sort of makes all the sense in the world. Cultural and heritage, net zero waste, water, net zero energy, all that kind of stuff makes all the sense. But I think this list of 10 principles could be something worth looking at as you contemplate your next steps. Now, the one punchline that this project taught me, uniquely of the case studies in the book, was that they measured their progress toward their goal being 1 ecological footprint. And what they found is they got to like 1.2 ecological footprints from the UK average of 3. So they got 3.5. So they got really close. And they measured everything. And what they found was the reduction of harm or impact or burden or footprint, essentially. Where did that come from? What they found was, and it's lost in the footnote there, 63% of that reduction of impact was from bricks and mortar stuff. Better insulation, solar panels, the electric vehicles, that kind of stuff. And 37% were changes in conduct. People responded differently to the place as built. And that was free. That was free. And they did it voluntarily. There wasn't someone there with a whip or, someone with a clipboard tisking at you. It was just the layout of the place induced a different set of decisions that people willingly and presumably happily made. And that's cool. I'm really excited about that. Second project I want to talk to you about is called Dockside Green. This project, I've since learned, was inspired by BedZ. So the developer of this project, Dockside Green, and this is in Victoria, British Columbia, visited BedZ while it was under construction. He said, I want to build BedZ for North America. And so he went back to Victoria, emulated all the district systems in BedZ and so on. And he was a developer. He's actually an accountant. He's a literal bean counter, right? So I often get the question like, oh, this must have been done by a tree hugger, it's uneconomic, and so on. He is all of that, but he is also an accountant. And he looked at the numbers and it penciled out, amongst the competition. But his goal at the time in 2004, I think this was 2005, he set himself the goal that of the 26 buildings in this 15-acre plan, all of them would be LEED Platinum. Now, our firm's done 7 Platinums. We're really proud of that. 26 is a mind blower. And at the time he proposed it, the world supply of platinum buildings were 24. So in one small corner of Canada where nobody was really paying attention, one person on 15 acres was going to double the world supply of a really scarce achievement. And I mention that, the 4 acres for BedZ, the 15 acres for Dockside Green, to say with 43 square miles, there's got to be 4 acres in there somewhere, right? And I think one of the things that I'm struck by, and this is just sort of fresh eyes looking at it, is I think we all kind of go blank at what to do with 43 acres. I'm clearer about what to do when you choose to go ahead, that you do it at this level of aspiration and this level of excellence. And I don't know how it applies to 43 acres beyond, or 43 square miles beyond the model of the bar set high and achieved. I think it changes the whole conversation. I should say also the 26 buildings lead platinum, the developer pledged $1 million bond if all 26 didn't make it. That is to say, he would lose $1 million if he didn't get it. And he didn't lose his $1 million. And the reason he did it was he did integrated design thinking. So rather than come at it with little kind of narrow thinking, he laid everything out optimally, buildings oriented correctly, common sense measures, and then put in district systems because the scale of district systems is auspicious. So it's pretty cool story. Here's the illustration of the street. In the middle of the plan is one of the more interesting things that I'm going to talk about, which was he did waste treatment on site with a naturalized system. In 15 acres for 26 buildings, he processed the poop right there in the middle. And he ran the effluent from that process right up the middle and put houses right facing it. Why? He found he could make more money facing the pond because it was waterfront property. So a couple things, right? In terms of taking what we've assumed was, and this is the kind of paradigm shift in thinking, that's always been bad, right? In this case, a bean counter accountant with an innovative streak made money on it, right? He charged people more to face the polishing phase. It doesn't smell. There's nothing floating in it. Don't worry about that. Probably the wrong thing to say after lunch, but I had to say that, so you know. But it's very nice, right? And so he paid for the sewage treatment system with the real estate premium, right? So how can we get those kind of creative real estate things going? So here was my visit to the actual building of it. And I will just say, if you think that you can get a picture with the sun out in Victoria, British Columbia, you're lying. So anytime you see a blue sky, it will be Photoshopped. So it's just, several people have gone, they come back with pictures all looking like this. But $100,000 premium for that unit on the right because you got a little sort of footbridge and it's a little piece of like a Japanese garden. It's absolutely charming, right? Systems going together. This is a project of our office that was running sort of in parallel, it turns out, with the first two I've talked about. It's a project that's now called Uptown Normal. And it was done for a client in our home state of, the town is Normal, Illinois. And when your town is called Normal, Illinois, you have to try a lot harder, right? So we got hired to do this in 1999, and this was going to be the sort of test sketch of the rendering we were going to hire. Did it by hand and turned it in, and they said, yeah, that's great. It said, okay, so the renderer should go. They said, no, that's the rendering. It's like, no, that's not the rendering, but here it is. 13 years later, I'm still showing it. The vision here was really basic. There's an Amtrak line that connects Chicago to St. Louis. It stops here in Normal. That's sort of the diagonal there on the left. There were 5 streets that came together in a really weird geometry. And there was one of the gentlemen from Salinas was talking about having some challenges with the traffic engineers. And so I'm going to show you the one we were talking about at lunch. Here it goes. So those 5 streets came together in a funny way. We proposed a circle, essentially, to be the spoke of the wheel and accept all those things. But wait, there's more. So we thought we should do a job, some kind of good job at stormwater. And so we thought the center of that sort of circle thing ought to be the place where the water comes together and is cleansed and sprayed around and celebrated somehow. But wait, there's more. So in 2000, we proposed this. LEED had just happened. We said to the leaders, the elected officials in Normal, we think you should require LEED certified buildings in the downtown, right? And so, in 2002, the town of Normal became the first municipality in the world to require LEED anything. Normal, Illinois. Okay? They adopted that in 2002. So every building I'm going to show you is LEED something. Just they started with certified, and they've stepped it up since then. I mention this to say, remember that postcard written from the future by our kids and our grandkids thanked us for our leadership. I want to say to you that Normal, Illinois is not, I don't know, it's not an exemplar of somehow super leaders. They were just people who wanted to do good for their community and thought that this was the way to do it, and did so. Well, we had some fights on our hands that were regulatory. And again, looking back from 2030, there's a lot of stuff that you want to do that is still illegal, is not required in your plan. So regulations, as you've gotten from many of the speakers, is an important thing. So here's down on the ground, here's the rendering of what that plaza would be in the middle of the circle. So what were the issues with this? Several. One is the traffic engineers thought that no human being should occupy the center of the circle. Why? They would have to cross a street to get to it. Well, last I looked, we crossed streets all day. Somehow this was special because it was classified in an engineering manual as a one-lane urban roundabout. And the manual said you can't put people in the one-lane urban roundabout. So we had a 2-year fight, and I was absolutely hauled out of the room a couple of times just steaming. And then they just put me in another room. Doug, you're not helping anymore. You're gone. So one of the traffic engineers came up with this bright idea one day and said, you know what? We're really fighting over semantics. Because if this weren't called a one-lane urban roundabout, as an engineer, I'm getting the nod. As an engineer, I would have, I think I'm comfortable with letting people be in the middle. Very slow, travel speeds, low traffic volumes, and so on. Let's call it a circular intersection. So there it is, circular intersection, the world's first, and to date, no one's been killed or injured. The other issue we had is we wanted the water to be touchable. And again, guidance in a lot of cases is don't make water in a public venue deeper than a 1/4 inch, because then no one can drown, right? Paint it yellow, make it no deeper than a 1/4 inch, all the kind of scary, always attributed to the lawyer's stuff. So we did the opposite. And again, the town elders were absolutely on top of this. So here are children violating laws, right? They've crossed the street to get there that was going to kill them. They're apparently failing to drown in the water that's more than a 1/4 inch deep. And it is delightful, and it is urban, and it is now the postcard view of this little town of Normal, Illinois, that exercised leadership and changed their story, because they were normal with no story. They're now normal sustainability champion, that sort of thing. And then when you come to this issue of jobs, which I think has been sort of threaded through a lot of the comments today, is this issue of where do our children go? They go to school, they get smart, we invest in their education, we hope for the best, and they don't come home, right? And so this little intervention on the part of Normal is a hook to get some of those kids to stick around. So here are college students with brewskis and their shoes off sitting in the fountain, right? And so it's quite an attractor. Here it is. And my great sort of satisfaction was threefold. One, 2010, it got certified under LEED ND. 2011, our project got a lower award than Victor's very good plan for El Paso as a National Smart Growth Award, the best new civic space in America. But the real comeuppance was this one. 2012, from the Federal Highway Administration, the very people that fought us for 2 years about permission to do it, gave us their highest award. Isn't that great? It took 8 years from no to good job, right? So Lord knows what barriers you all have, and so I'm glad we're all young people around this table, because sometimes it takes a while. So what am I looking at now? What's the next thing? Nudges. This is back to this theme of conduct and behavior. There is actually a book called Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. I recommend it to you. It is about the idea of behavioral economics and how you can actually, through policy and through cues, get people to be happier and make some good decisions. So I'm going to show you just some little cultural markers. These are available if you want them. This one's available if you want it. I Okay, so those are moments in time that speak to the fact that the places we lay out and how we live our lives, either in alignment with them or kind of in conflict, really is in a vein, a rich vein I think we can all exploit. And thank you, leaders, for your leadership. And I look forward to the discussion. Thank you.